Today on Aging Untold, knowing if it's still safe for your loved one to drive.
We don't have to go all or nothing, and I think that's what everybody's so afraid of, is you either get to drive or you don't get to.
We explore the signs to watch for and how to approach this delicate conversation with love and respect. Then, hospitalized seniors experiencing sudden confusion.
Expect hospital delirium to occur. The statistics are high, the percentages are high, that it happens frequently.
We explain what's known as hospital delirium and why it's so difficult to detect. And a constant companion.
It has been the best 2.5 years.
A look at how one wise pup is serving with purpose. Experts with advice and solutions. You're watching Aging Untold with Aging Well Coach Catherine Ambrose, gerontologist Sam Craddock, aging expert Amy O'Rourke, and board-certified physician Dr. Ray Rogers. We're all getting older. It's about time we talked about it.
We all remember the moment we first got our driver's license, that sense of freedom, independence, and possibility. Today, we're talking about seniors who've had that freedom for decades and aren't ready to give it up. In fact, as of 2022, more than 52 million Americans ages 65 and older held licenses. Amy, should older adults continue to drive as they get older?
Oh my gosh, this is the scariest question for everybody, isn't it? Isn't it? So I'll give you an alarmist example. I had a client that wasn't supposed to be driving. I didn't want them driving. They drove, they got in an accident, killed his wife and his best friend. So This is a serious issue. It was a very scary time. Now, how do you handle that? Nobody wants to bring it up. So sometimes if you don't want to be the one to deliver the bad news, like we got to talk about your driving, look around for some driving assessing companies in your area and have someone else drive with them, or get in the car with them just to see how they're doing. Follow them behind and see how they're going, just to have a conversation. The best thing to do really is have it way before it's become a problem. Way before, like, how do you want to handle this when you can't drive anymore?
Yeah, so I'll piggyback on that. I've made agreements, written agreements, and I think a written agreement, because we're dealing with an age group that oftentimes their word is their word. And so they're going to honor that. So make a written agreement early on that says, hey, I'm going to take a ride with you once a month, once a quarter, depending on the age, depending on what's going on. I'm going to take a drive with you. And when you scare the bejeebers out of me, when we get back, we're going to agree that we're going to put some limitations on. We don't have to go all or nothing. And I think that's what everybody's so afraid of, is you either get to drive or you don't get to.
That's right.
But you can say, you know what? Your vision isn't so great, so I don't want you driving at night any longer. Never during bad weather. You shouldn't be on the freeways. There may be a busy road that you shouldn't drive on any longer.
I think you're right about that. I think the biggest thing, it would be scary for me, that independence.
Yeah.
All or none.
Yeah.
You know, so I would want to have the relationship, to have the contract like you're saying, but to also have the relationship for me to know what are some of those early signs that I should be looking for. And maybe the person who's driving, they could come to me and say, you know, this is happening. I'm not comfortable, because they know I'm not going to all or none.
Right, and medically, what would some of those signs be? What would you be looking for?
Wow, I mean, if you're getting lost in familiar places, or you just can't remember where you went, or you're changing lanes, you know, if you're driving behind somebody and they can't stay in the same lane, or sometimes their foot is hitting the wrong pedal, they don't know which one. Those are signs.
Or if they have neuropathy, if you can't feel your feet, you can't feel a gas pedal and a brake. And I've seen it too frequently, where you serious neuropathy and go get in the car.
Okay, and can't do it. But it might be you have a frozen shoulder, and that maybe you could work with fitness trainer and get some of that back. You've got to be able to turn your head. Something that a lot of drivers experience later on is losing peripheral vision. So rather than just go get your eyeglass prescription, ask the doctor to check out your peripheral vision. That's very important. And we know why people have so much fear, is because it's very necessary for aging in place, some type of transportation to get your groceries, get where you need to go. So you may have to become more creative. Like, if we're going to live in the home we're in right now, what are we going to do to fill in the gap? Keep in mind that we have young generations that don't even want to drive. They don't have cars. They travel all the time. They use Uber and Lyft. So figuring out rideshare systems. And there are some systems just for seniors too.
And I think the important thing is to make sure that you're keeping some options open, filling that vacuum. So maybe filling the vacuum is going to independent living. Maybe filling the vacuum is learning how to use Lyft. Maybe filling the vacuum is, buddy sharing to the grocery store.
Right. Lots of people in our country live in rural communities where Lyft and Uber and mass transit are just not that available and not that readily available. And a lot of our aged population are in those communities. And so we have to come up with solutions. What I find to be so sad is that we oftentimes throw this off on the family, and then the family becomes the villain. So I tell any family member, if you can't get the support that you need from your DMV, go to your doctor. Go to the doctor and tell them not to drive anymore.
Yeah, actually,
let the doctor be the villain.
I love that. This is a very easy issue to solve. A family contacted the state and said, our 98-year-old mother should not be driving anymore. So she received a letter from the state of Kansas telling her, we're not going to give you another driver's license. We're not going to let you test. And I asked her, how did that make you feel? And she said it made her so mad that her family was so happy. And
Well, I think anytime you can have objective evidence of why the person shouldn't be doing it, that's documentation.
Yeah.
so you can always call the state yourself or have the doctor do it.
Still ahead, your loved one's sudden confusion during hospitalization may be what's known as delirium.
The minute you see something, bring someone in to get it evaluated so that it doesn't continue.
We'll explain why it happens and how to respond. But first, a scam that preys on your trust.
If it's from like a Gmail account or something like that and not from the company, be very wary. That's one of the things I didn't do.
One man lost thousands after scammers impersonated a company he knew and trusted. How this phishing scam works and how to protect yourself.
You've heard the warning before, scammers trying to use your trust in legitimate businesses to steal your money. But some schemes are getting so sophisticated, even the savviest consumers can get caught off guard. Rebecca Taylor sat down with a man in Tucson, Arizona, who lost $25,000 to criminals pretending to be a reputable company.
They are extremely sophisticated. The psychological part of it, they've got that down pat. Basically, they try and keep you busy so you don't think about what you're doing.
The 76-year-old says he's filled with guilt and embarrassment and asked us not to identify him. The email he received appears to be from iMyPhone, a global tech company with 3 million users. But it's actually an imposter email pretending to be the tech firm. The email claims nearly $200 was deducted from his account, and if the withdrawal was done in error, to call the number provided within 24 hours.
Once I called the, quote, helpline number, I was put in touch with a person by the name of Miguel.
He says Miguel had him fill out forms, and to help expedite the refund, he allowed Miguel to install software on his computer so they can act in remotely.
Yes, right. Basically, take control of your computer.
At first, it didn't raise any red flags because he says it's a common practice in the sales and tech industry that he retired from. But once the scammers had remote access to his private computer, they transferred money from his savings to his checking to make it look like he received a credit.
They said, oh, we've made a mistake. We have sent you $19,000. We need to get that back. And obviously, I say, you look at it and say, yeah, it's there.
Convinced he had a credit of nearly $20,000, he then willingly sent the scammers money. He's not alone. According to the FBI, tech support fraud is the #1 crime impacting people over 60.
Those scams are very common. $178 million just for the elderly loss in 2023. That's not even counting the people 59 and under.
We asked if this particular phishing scam is on the FBI's radar. We're told consumer complaints are confidential, so the FBI won't comment on any specific organization. We also reached out to iMyPhone corporate offices for answers, but so far no one has gotten back to us. On its website, it states customers are only contacted through the official customer service email ending with @imyphone.com.
If it's from like a Gmail account or something like that and not from the company, be very wary. That's one of the things I didn't do, and I should have.
As soon as he caught on to the scam, he reported it to his bank, local law enforcement, and the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. As a result, he was able to recover a $15,000 wire transfer. In Tucson, Arizona, I'm Rebecca Taylor.
I'm so glad he got some of that money back. And even though he was embarrassed and he wanted to stay anonymous, the fact that he shared that story is so helpful now to so many people.
You know, I get antivirus emails as if it's my antivirus people, as if I've purchased something, and if I didn't purchase this, to call them within 24 hours, and it happens almost every other day. Are you guys getting those things?
I get them from various other
I just ignore them
things.
now.
It's hard to trust anything anymore because if you call into the phone numbers, oftentimes those
there's
things
rerouted.
can be rerouted and intercepted. If you receive a call from a number, have they spoofed that and now you're getting a call from the scammer? If these guys would just put themselves to work doing something honest, we would solve the world's problems, wouldn't
They're
we?
very, very smart. What scared me was that he was in kind of the business, and even he got scammed.
Yeah.
And I think no is going to be my answer to everything. Like,
Well, it's infuriating
when they-
because they're preying on the elderly.
Well, they're
Yeah.
preying on everybody.
Your people were using something you were already familiar with and trusting. Same thing with him.
Right.
They're using things that are familiar enough that you think, oh, okay, so it's okay to go along with this.
Exactly.
But it really does trick older people even worse because they're so lonely and they really want to chat people up on the phone or believe something.
Yeah.
They don't want to make a mistake, and that leads them right down the path.
Or they come from a generation that didn't have to be
everybody.
skeptical of everything like we do.
Exactly.
yeah, and they're underexposed to all the sophistication that's going out there.
Yeah.
True.
Well, the other thing is the consequences of being scammed is that a lot of times with seniors, the family overreacts and shames them when, come on,
Yeah.
it can happen to
happening to
any
all
of
of
us.
us.
Right,
Yes.
right.
We'll be right back with more on Aging Untold.
Coming up, from puppy training to lifelong companion,
When we were paired up with her, I was in tears.
how one organization is working to provide more trained service dogs for people who need them. But first, hospital delirium can quickly strike seniors. We break down what it is, what causes it, and show you how to provide support. You can follow Aging Untold on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok now.
Welcome back. Imagine your family member is hospitalized, they're recovering well, until suddenly they don't recognize you. They're confused, agitated, or seeing things that aren't there. It's known as hospital delirium, and it can rapidly develop. Dr. Ray, what causes this sudden confusion, and why is it so hard to recognize?
Well, it's hard to recognize because I think a lot of medical professionals in the hospital, nurses and all that, they don't recognize that entity, and they figure that this person has dementia or so, or maybe they're just depressed and all that, and it's totally different. It usually is triggered by some kind of a medical condition or so. So you really have to look for the underlying things like maybe infection or even simple things like dehydration, constipation, urinary retention, medications, or even side effects from medications. You want to really look at that. But the other thing I think that confuses people, because it's so acute, you also have to differentiate that from a stroke. Now that would be legitimate. And so one of the ways you can look at that is with delirium, it lasts for a little bit and then it resolves. But a stroke, you're going to have continued symptoms going on. It's not going to fluctuate. And I think you really have to look at it as if the brain is kind of like a GPS system. Really, it's a GPS system. It's active. Destination hasn't changed, right?
Okay.
It has clear direction. But what if you have a storm that comes in and disrupts the signal? But then eventually you get the signal back.
It's a great analogy.
Okay. So I do have to add that there are some that aren't physical
Sure,
causes.
sure.
So loss of sleep. When you're in a hospital,
Yeah.
how well do you sleep?
As a resident,
Yeah, that sleep deprivation is big time. And then sensory, over sensory.
load.
So all the bells and whistles and the alarms and people coming in your door and out your door, and if you've got a shared room, and that person may have people coming in and out. So that sensory issue that goes on, and then you're in a totally new environment. And so that transfer part of the hospital delirium is very real.
I think the rule of thumb for anybody that's in the hospital, try if you can not to be alone. Always have someone there with
Agreed.
you. And expect hospital delirium to occur. The statistics are high, the percentages are high that it happens frequently. And think practically, like hearing aids, do they have them in? Glasses, are they wearing them? Do they have the water pitcher near them, or is it all the way across the room? So keep them hydrated, and the minute you see something, bring someone in to get it evaluated so that it doesn't continue.
Keep things as familiar as you can in an unfamiliar environment.
And that's going to pay off when your doctor really knows you and you have family and friends around so they can let people know that something's not right.
Next,
She would always pace herself with Easton's wheelchair as opposed to me, which tells me she knew this was her assignment.
how one pup is fulfilling purpose through service.
Service dogs transform lives, opening doors, picking up dropped phones, putting on socks. Simple tasks that make all the difference. But of the 61 million Americans with disabilities, fewer than 1% have one. But experts say the animal's genetics limit the pool. And that's changing. Heather Graff shows us how researchers and canine companions are getting more service dogs to the people who need them.
This is the type of swing that I like because you can just kind of like sprawl out.
It's like almost like being in a hammock, right?
Yeah, almost.
An afternoon at the park with his best friend by his side.
Got that merry-go-round?
We can, yeah.
Easton Gonzalez, his mom Jennifer, and their dog Wisdom go just about everywhere together.
And if we leave her at home, she's a little confused.
But Wisdom is not confused about her job. She is a pup with a purpose.
No pets in playground area.
She's not a pet. She's first a service dog.
More specifically, Easton's service dog. Easton was born with spina bifida. The 13-year-old relies on a wheelchair and
He's had 12 surgeries in 12 years.
a trauma no child should endure alone. Jennifer says the surgeries and other medical procedures have caused her son to suffer from severe anxiety. Like any parent, Jennifer wanted to ease her son's pain. So she turned to local spina bifida groups who directed her to canine companions.
We provide dogs for any kind of physical disability, including amputations or spina bifida.
Paige Mazzani is the organization's CEO.
We actually created the concept of service dogs for physical and mobility disabilities.
Now in their 50th year, Canine Companions provide service dogs free of charge to their clients.
Only about 50% of the dogs that go through our process actually make it because we have a very high standard.
And that's where a study involving the puppy kindergarten at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina came in. Duke Puppy Kindergarten tested the mental abilities of puppies with the ultimate goal of getting more assistance dogs to more people in need.
There's not just smart dogs and dumb dogs. There's different dogs who, have these different cognitive abilities.
Vanessa Woods is the director and helped lead research at the Duke Puppy Kindergarten. That's Wisdom in 2020, performing one of the cognitive tests at Duke Puppy Kindergarten with ease. Wisdom was a rare breed, and she earned her name.
When we were paired up with her, I was in tears.
Back at a Florida park, a grown-up Wisdom keeps her watchful eyes on Easton, always ready to offer a helping paw. Because of Easton's age, Jennifer acts as Wisdom's primary handler, meaning she, Easton, and Wisdom are a three-part team.
I would have the leash, but she would always pace herself with Easton's wheelchair as opposed to me, which tells me she knew this was her assignment.
The saying goes, there's nothing truer in the world than the love of a good dog. And that sentiment has never been truer for Easton.
it has been so, hi, it has been the best 2.5 years.
When I heard the name Wisdom, oh my gosh, that's such a great name.
Yeah.
And Puppy Kindergarten was so cute.
Yeah. So Ray, I have to ask. I have to ask.
No.
Come on. Puppy yet?
Yeah, they were so cute.
Oh, yes.
They were. But it's kind of like having a grandchild, you know.
You
I wouldn't
okay?
have it, I can give them back.
You give them back.
But no, they were cute.
They were
Did you
very
see
cute.
every part of that segment? There was happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness at Duke University, happiness with the mother, happiness with the son. Even the dog looked happy.
Yeah,
Wisdom looked happy.
Yeah.
Sitting
And,
out
they, and they take the time and the training that they do
Yeah.
now. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, because we travel a lot, I see so many more pets in the airports these days and so many more service dogs.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, man, could I ever get mine to be that good?
That's why they talked about training.
You know,
They're really
kind of
looking
in
for the
between.
right dog and
Yeah.
the right match, and then providing free to the person that needs that animal.
Yeah.
They've brought so much joy to that family's
Yeah.
daily life.
And
it's just amazing.
It
So-
kind
a lot
of
of
just shows
comfort
how
and
they're
care
an
for him.
extension of the family.
Absolutely. So look to get on a list of a companion animal is something that you might need. We're all getting older, and it's about time we talked about it. Until next time on Aging Untold.
On the next Aging Untold, strong bones are key to independence.
It's really, really important specifically to prevent it because the effects after a fall or fracture are so devastating.
We'll tell you who's at risk for osteoporosis and what you can do to stay steady.